From lightsaber duels, starfields, and iconic costumes, Star Wars really lends itself to the medium of comics. There's also plenty of backstories and side characters that are basically meant for comics, more so than they're meant for pros or the big screen. Realistically though, we're very aware there are a ton of Star Wars comics, and they're not very easy to get into. They're split between two different continuities, they focus on a ton of different characters and storylines, but that's why we're making this guide for you right now, to teach you how to tap into this well of cool Star Wars stories that are right here waiting for you to enjoy. Hello there friends, my name is Parker Kirk. I'm a content manager here at Youtini, and today I'm going to be walking you through Youtini's Foundational 5 of comics. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that if you like Star Wars content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Alright, let's get into it. The first thing that you're probably stumped on when you want to get into Star Wars comics is, how should I even read them? There's physical, there's digital, there's online ordering, there's comic shops. We understand it's a complicated topic. We have a whole video on this that the amazing Emma Park made. I'll link it below the like button, as well as put a card right up there so you can click on it, jump over there, she'll teach you how to read comics, and then come on back because I got 5 comics that I really want to talk to you about. Alright, so the Foundational 5. Starting off at number 1, we have Star Wars, the 2015 run. It was the first time that we got Star Wars in the canon continuity after the Disney Lucasfilm acquisition in 2014. This run was written by Jason Aaron, and the cover and art were done by John Cassidy. There's a lot to say about this series, but I'll start by saying this series is a certified banger, and it dives in right after the events of New Hope. You've got everything you can ask for here. A deep dive into the characters that you know and love, a showdown between Luke and Boba Fett in Ben Kenobi's hut on Tatooine, Luke and Vader dueling before the events of Empire Strikes Back. It's all here and it's all amazing. The artist for the series, John Cassidy, described the art here as junk-like, and he said that writing it was both a headache and a pleasure at the same time. You can definitely see what he's talking about when you read the comic, and you see how awesome the art inside is. This is the comic series where Luke learns how to summon his lightsaber, a skill that saves his life in the Wampa Cave in Empire. This is also where Han and Leia develop all that romantic tension that really comes to a head in Empire Strikes Back. One of the reviews on Youtini.com describes this comic as doing exactly what a comic should do, filling in the gaps between movies. That review is by a Youtini viewer called Lando, and I'll make sure that it's linked in the description below the like button. The series also has a lot of crossover events with concurrently running Star Wars comic series like Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra. Who is Dr. Aphra, you might be wondering? Well, it's funny you ask, because Dr. Aphra's 2016 run, that's number 2 on our list. Written by Kieran Gillen, penciled by Kev Walker, and edited by Jordan D. White, Dr. Aphra is a favorite among the Youtini staff. It's some of our favorite comics of all time. Originally introduced in the 2015 run of Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra could be described as a darker take on the Indiana Jones character. But I don't want to minimalize her by just making her a different version of an already established character. She is an archaeologist, but this archaeologist is always accompanied by her murder droids and somehow still manages to have a heart of gold. She's the first canon comic-only character that received her very own spin-off run, and let me just say, this run delivers. Due to the effects of this 2016 run, Aphra has become prolific within the Star Wars community. The series even won a GLAAD award in 2020 for Outstanding Comic. She has her own audio drama now, and a script book corresponding with that audio drama. She has a second comic run that started in 2020 and is still going. This all puts her in elite company with characters like Darth Vader, as characters that have had multiple canon runs since the Disney acquisition. This all from a character that hasn't even appeared on screen before. If you haven't read the 2015 Darth Vader run in which the character is introduced, you can always listen to the audio drama to get introduced to the character, which you could get for free if you go to youtini.com/audible. But neither of those introductions are really necessary. Feel free to dive right in with this character. Alright, now that we're done with Dr. Aphra, we can talk about my favorite comic series of all time. Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, by Charles Soule. This is the 2017 run of Darth Vader, and this comic is incredible. Written by Charles Soule, penciled by Giuseppe Camicoli and Jim Chang, inked by Cam Smith and Jim Chang, colored by David Curiel and Matthew Wilson, letters by Joe Carmanga, and edited by Jordan D. White. This Darth Vader run has it all. It has the origination of Siths bleeding their kyber crystals. There's an early example of the Jedi bearish vow of solitude. It has the founding of the Sith Inquisition, underwater lightsaber battles, the building of Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar. It has Anakin wrestling with the finality of becoming Darth Vader, as well as the finality of Padme's death. Charles Soule routinely makes a habit of not missing. He just doesn't miss. We can see that in Light of the Jedi, we can see that in this comic run, we can see that in Kylo Ren, which is another series that's on this Foundational 5 list. This comic series is 25 issues long and it does not have a weak issue. Every single one's going to be having you grab the next one as soon as you're done reading it. You're taken across the galaxy with Darth Vader in a way that really only comics can portray him. The awesomeness of Darth Vader's power, the true undefined limits of it, really don't manifest themselves that well on the big screen sometimes. But in the comics, the right artist-writer combo, they can really do justice for this character in a way that film really just can't. They make his power absurd in the coolest possible sense of that word. The series is truly a masterpiece. I love it. Please read it. You won't be disappointed, I promise. Alright, so next we have Kylo Ren. I want you to think back to the first time that you saw Kylo Ren on the big screen. It was during the 2014 Thanksgiving Force Awakens trailer. Since that moment, Star Wars fans have been clamoring to find out who this character was and how he became who he was on the screen. Written by Charles Soule, penciled by Will Slaney and Clayton Crane, inked by Will Slaney, colored by Guru EFX, and painted by Clayton Crane. The Rise of Kylo Ren packs all of the backstory that you can into a 4-issue one-shot story. Charles Soule himself nicknamed this series From Ben to Ren. He really wanted this series to show the transition from Ben Solo into the Kylo Ren that you see when you watch The Force Awakens. We get to see all of the gritty moments as Ben sells his life to Snoke. I mean, seriously guys, look at this first panel. The art style on this piece is incredible. It shows everything that Ben does and all the things he went through in awesome detail. There's no prerequisite for reading the series. You could honestly probably read it before you watch the sequel trilogy if you really wanted to. It's definitely the shortest on the list, clocking in at 4 issues, but there are 4 incredible issues to say the least. Alright, so last up we have Dark Empire, because we have to have a Legends title on this list, right? Seriously though, if we didn't have a Legends title on this list, then Jared, Emily, Freddie, and Rick from Legends Look Back, they would actually stage a coup. Written by Tom Veitch, letters by Tom Klein, cover by Dave Dorman, and penciled, inked, and colored by Cam Kennedy. Dark Empire shows a side of Star Wars that we were not familiar with back in 1991 because Palpatine comes back from apparent death for the first time in this series. And to defeat him, Luke actually has to penetrate into the dark side, and we spend the 6-issue series finding out if Luke's gonna succumb to that influence fully and actually join the dark side. In this series, we see Leia wielding a lightsaber for the first time in the Legends continuity. It's really cool, and you can see it on Dave Dorman's awesome cover of issue 6. This series also has an appearance from Han Solo when he's ambushed by Boba Fett, which is the first time that we see him after he's been eaten by the Sarlacc, which apparently he was found somewhat indigestible. This series has a funny place in the Legends continuity. It was written at the same time as the Thrawn trilogy. Both stories were written by incredible writers and they were published simultaneously, but the events of the stories kind of conflict a bit. Now, this isn't really a problem because it's Legends, right? And that's kind of what makes Legends Legends. It's got quirkiness and weirdness to it that kind of just gives it its own unique flavor and personality. We wouldn't have a podcast about it every week if we didn't love Legends, right? After the initial 6 issues of Dark Empire, we were given a 6-issue sequel series in 1994. Then in 1995, we had Empire's End, a brief 2-issue concluded. I'm really glad that we got a Legends title on this list. It really fills out the whole timeline. Alright friends, so that is the Youtini Foundational 5 of comics. Congratulations, you've taken your first steps into a larger world. And believe me, it's an incredibly large world from here. Once you finish these comics, feel free to visit youtini.com and get more comic recommendations from our guides and collections. As well as feel free to drop into our Discord server and visit with all of the other members of our awesome community. There's a lot of comic book fans in there, and I'm sure all of them have a different recommendation for you. If you want to hear Youtini talk about comics some more, visit the backlog for the Cosmic Force on the podcast platform of your choice. You can listen to Emma, Jacob, Caleb, Timothy, and all the other guests talk about their favorite comics and basically everything there is to talk about Star Wars comics. Thanks for sticking around this long, folks. Comics are a passion of mine, Star Wars and otherwise, so I'm really happy that I was able to show you the way on your entry into Star Wars comics. I hope these were the books you're looking for, and as always, may the Force be with you.